Bro, I didn't even think of it. But shout out to you guys for mentioning it in the comments from yesterday's vid. Jet sweeps? Why the hell are we still running jet sweeps? Matt Canada ain't here anymore. And it just so happens, of course, Roman Wilson gets hurt on a jet sweep play. Is it the curse of Matt Canada? Is he leaving some lingering effects? Does this hire just keep getting worse and worse? Like, we still got to deal with Matt Canada's wrath here? He's the only offensive coordinator for the Steelers that can call a jet sweep? Like, that's what we're doing here? If he ain't calling a jet sweep, something bad's going to happen? We'll feel the wrath of Matt Canada? Come on, bro. Come on. Sad part about it is, like, jet sweeps are kind of a part of Arthur Smith's system. The only difference is Arthur Smith knows how to call them. They're not as predictable when Arthur Smith will call them. But maybe he didn't have to do it this soon. He could have waited at least through training camp. Maybe you start calling it in the regular season, or maybe you have to wait till year 2. Maybe you have to get year 1 under your belt, and then you could start calling jet sweeps in year 2. I don't know, man. Jet sweeps. I was hoping we retired that once we fired Matt Canada. Because did we really do it like that once we fired Matt Canada last year? How many jet sweeps were we running those last, 5-6 games of the season? I don't remember. I really don't remember. All I know is the offense was cooking when Mason Rudolph was in there, and was cooking when Kenny was in there for that game and a half before he got hurt. It was Mitch. That was the one that kind of screwed things up for that 3-game stretch. But anyway, back to Roman Wilson. Thank God his injury is only being classified as week to week. It looks like he'll be okay to start the season, but that will put him behind the 8 ball in terms of development and making an impact on this team early in the season. Most likely, at least. But I'm just happy it doesn't look like we're dealing with another Calvin Austin type of scenario where hyped rookie receiver that we're excited about gets an injury in training camp and we're not able to see him at all for their rookie year. No, it looks like Roman Wilson, he'll be good to go week 1, but this is just a bummer because we were hoping to see him more in training camp and in preseason. I thought he had a clear path to be our starting slot receiver, but now it's going to be more tough. It's definitely going to be more tough. But now the question remains, and we brought this up in yesterday's video. What do we do at receiver? Knowing this new information, does this change anything? I don't think it changes anything, really. Maybe it just heightens up the urgency to try to add a receiver here, whether it's free agency or via trade. So I think we got to bring someone in. And multiple reports have come out recently. And one of these reports was out before Roman Wilson's injury. This came out last week, claiming that even though training camp has started and the trade buzz has kind of died down a little bit over the last few weeks, with that being said, the Steelers are still seriously in the running for a big ticket receiver. The first report, again, it came out last Friday, was from DK Pittsburgh Sports' Chris Halleck. He said, sooner or later, this might all work out in Pittsburgh's favor. Colin has long been in discussions with other teams about receivers that could be traded. And according to a team source, the Steelers are convinced they're going to land Brandon Ayuk, DK Metcalf, or Tyreek Hill in a trade at some point. Combine that report with Jerry Dulac, Steelers insider, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, going on WDVE yesterday and giving his thoughts on the Steelers receiver situation.
Wide receiver core is set, in your opinion, or are they still going to go out and get a veteran presence to join the group they have currently?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's set, and they want more than a veteran presence. They want a big-time veteran presence, somebody who could, is certainly at minimum a number 2 receiver. Look, fellas, I know George Pickens is a big-time talent, but I'm not exactly sure he's a number 1 receiver, if you will. But he's certainly a big play, big talent guy. I think they would like to get another guy. I mean, I think Van Jefferson's a nice receiver. I think he's Allen Robinson, maybe a step above Allen Robinson in terms of potential. You know, Allen Robinson had been off injured. You know, they have high hopes for Roman Wilson, but he's a rookie. And, you know, Calvin Austin, I still think could be a big play guy, not a Pro Bowler, but a more than capable receiver. But, yeah, I think they would love to get a number 2 guy, but it just depends. You know, a big-time number 2 guy, but it just depends at what cost. And, of course, that's what's held up any other deal. You know, for all the rumors about Brandon Ayuk, the 49ers just want way too much for him.
So Omar is still working, but I don't think this Roman Wilson injury really helps our cause because it hurts our leverage a little bit. Maybe it speeds up the process for us to trade for a receiver, but it might make us pay a little bit more to get that receiver. So it's, just kind of a lose-lose all around, because if we were already going to trade for a receiver, you'd like to trade for a receiver and give up the least amount possible. But now teams like the 49ers may be looking across at the Steelers and saying, like, hey, man, you know what? We're going to keep our price kind of steep here because now we see that you're down a receiver over there, a receiver that you were most likely going to be counting on. So yeah, I think you need Roman Wilson, or you need a Brandon Ayuk more than we need to give up a Brandon Ayuk. So we're going to keep this price a little bit steep. But maybe you could say the Steelers are looking over at the 49ers and saying, like, hey, how much longer do you really want to keep dealing with this holding shit from Brandon Ayuk? Because that is just going to continue to pile up and just continue to be a distraction for you. And that's something that San Fran really doesn't want to be dealing with. Their sights are set on getting back to the Super Bowl, and Brandon Ayuk holding in and this whole contract mess isn't helping with that. Either way, I think these reports are good to hear because it doesn't look like we're just going to have to settle for whatever's out there in free agency. Like, we don't have to just sign a Michael Thomas or a Hunter Renfrow or a Russell Gage. Omar is looking at the trade market. We could look at guys that are already on teams. And that's what the conversation has been for much of this offseason. We have talked about bringing in free agent receivers, but over the last month or so, it's been an Ayuk trade or a Devontae Adams trade, a DK Metcalf trade. I don't know where this Tyreek Hill connection came from. That seems out of nowhere. I would bet good money that doesn't happen, but I think the Brandon Ayuk stuff, the DK Metcalf, the Devontae Adams stuff seems way more in the realm of possibility. So bummer, though. It's still a bummer, Roman Wilson going down. But, yeah, good to hear that he could be back for week 1. What does that mean? Again, I don't think he's going to have that much of an impact early on. Maybe this means more that he'll be on the JPJ type of path where we'll ease him along for the first month, and then if he excels, we'll get him more and more snaps from week 5, week 6 on to the rest of the season. That's probably the case. Like, if he was fully healthy in training camp and preseason, I thought he could have been our starting slot receiver, but I got this feeling he's going to be missing too much time, and it would be too much on his plate for those first 4 weeks, first month of the season. So it's a bummer. But this Roman Wilson jet sweep debacle wasn't the only head-scratching thing that I found out about yesterday. What about how Russell Wilson got his calf injury? I know the calf injury actually happened like at some point last week, but I just saw how it happened yesterday. I found out about how it happened yesterday. He was pushing a sled. Huh? Like, what are we doing here? Like, apparently the new strength coach wanted to leave his mark by getting all of the players to push the sleds like O-linemen. How about we just keep that to the O-line? And if you want to expand your horizons to other positions, let's leave the quarterback out of it. Let's leave the quarterback, let's say the quarterback, kicker, and punter. Let's leave them out of pushing sleds like O-linemen. If you want to include the running backs, tight ends obviously because they got to worry about blocking. The running backs, tight ends, and receivers, sure, because they actually on occasion have to worry about blocking. Quarterbacks, kickers, punters. No, they in no world should be doing this type of shit. It's just foolishness. Absolutely foolishness. Like, how did no one look and say to themselves, probably a bad idea? Were we going to keep having Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and Kyle Allen push the sled for, the rest of training? Like, were they going to continue to do it? So why even do it one time? It doesn't add up. But here was Russ's reaction to him finally getting back out on the field yesterday in somewhat of a greater capacity than what he was in the first 4 sessions of training camp. It was still limited, but I think it was the first day that we actually got to see him do some stuff in like a throwing team setting with the 7-on-7s.
Then also getting the reps today was really good, for me, just to be able to do 7-on-7 and be in the mix. That was the plan the whole time, and just to be able to get as many reps in 7-on-7 as I could, and that was really good stuff today.
What hurdles do you need to clear just to be a full, complete participant?
Just taking one day at a time. Just one day at a time. I'll be ready to go when it's time.
Sort of an acclimation process for you, sort of a step up into being able to do that?
Yeah, I think more than anything else, it's just trying to be smart as possible. We got a long way. It's not even August yet. We're in the beginning of July, or end of July, and then so just trying to be extremely smart. We got 17 games plus hopefully 4 more. So that's the mentality.
And here's Tomlin's reaction as to why Russ is being eased along slowly thus far in training camp.
Yeah, we'll play it day to day and play it by ear and do what's appropriate on a day-to-day basis, yes.
How much is Russ able to kind of dictate how much work he does? Is it something that you guys are implementing, or is he able to raise his hand and get in there?
I'm slowing down the progress, and I think I've been pretty clear with you guys about that.
Now the question remains, why? Why is Russ taking his time getting back? Obviously, Tomlin's saying the decision is on him. And I think some of you guys hit the nail on the head yesterday in the chat. I agree with what some of you guys were saying. You got at Travel with Ebby saying, I think Coach T respects Russ too much to play him and bench him for Justin. Russ will be the starting quarterback. He's been doing this a lot longer. Let him rest. He'll be fine come this season. It's still so early. Black and Yellow Texas Steel says, you definitely don't bench Hall of Famer Russell Wilson week 1. Definitely. Mike T is boosting Fields' confidence. And he definitely don't give a damn either way. It's a win-win. But let me see what this young bull got real quick. And again, I agree. I think Russ is the guy right now. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse. But maybe it's just me getting caught up in the moment here of seeing Fields do all these good things. And we still haven't really seen Russ yet to that capacity. And it's a new system. It's a new coordinator for him. It's new teammates, all that. Because it's not like Russ has been here for 4 or 5 years and has built that kind of chemistry. He's got that type of rapport with the offense, with his teammates, with the coaches. I'm sticking with Russ. I still think it is Russ. I'm sticking with Russ because he's Russ. And that is one of the reasons. That's the main reason. It's Russell Wilson. We shouldn't be panicking. His experience as a Hall of Fame quarterback speaks for itself, and I think will help get him through and this offense through training camp, preseason, and ultimately through the regular season. It's going to be something that this team leans on, and this is what Tomlin reiterated yesterday.
Obviously, we've been really consistent about the positioning of it throughout the offseason. We described it as Russ having pole position, meaning that they're going to be given an opportunity to compete, but I just think it's important to lean on his experience and expertise relative to the things that come outside of playing to provide direction for the unit and things of that nature.
But I will say, the more we don't see Russ out there, and the more we see Fields doing good things, it's just going to be tough to ignore. So we just got to see what happens today. We really just got to take a day at a time, because this could be squashed really quickly. If Russ gets a full workload starting today and looks great, and then there's some inconsistency that pop up with Fields, then it's not even a conversation. But the more this continues to go on, Russ is limited, Fields looks good, I think the more it becomes a conversation. That's all I'm saying. I still think, I've said it all offseason, if you're betting on one of these two to win you the most amount of games for this season, it's Russell Wilson. But this is a very, very unique scenario where this is a new team for both of these guys. We don't have like crazy investment in either of them. If anything, like I said yesterday, we have more investment in Justin Fields. We gave up a pick for him, and we're paying him a little bit more. And it would do the franchise a lot better long term if Fields is the guy because of his age. Like, he could be, if he pans out, he could be the guy for 10, 15 years, right? Whereas Russ, we're probably capped with like a max 4 or 5 years. But if those are a great 4 or 5 years and we feel secure in Russ being the franchise quarterback, we have faith in him, then that's worth a ton. Like, I'm not complaining about that, but it's just like the ceiling, the quarterback position being optimized for the next decade, 15 years. Like, that happens through Justin Fields if you're just talking about the two guys that are on the roster. Listen, man, yeah, I just think the more we get what we've seen these last 5 days, the more of that, if the more of that continues to happen, the more the competition is open. That's all. So let's just see what happens today. We'll see if Russ's workload ramps up. We'll see how he does. We'll see how he performs, how Justin Fields performs. And we'll just take it day by day. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Big D News. Stay chilling. Peace.